for supporting the independent businesses and independent farmers that are really the heart and soul of this region. And I'm really excited. Thank you. Where's Tommy and Lisa? Okay. Tommy's working probably. Yes, he's working. Thank you, and please join me in thanking Tommy and Lisa. As Lisa was just saying, what Keeping Nails shows is that it can happen in Kingston. And it's been happening for 15 years. And this business is just an incredible example of what independent business can be, both successful and in such a central part of the community. Being part of people's lives. I'm sorry I missed comedy night last night. I was doing politics, its own kind of comedy night. But really essential sort of staple in the community. So thank you guys for hosting. And I'm really happy. Two people are going to speak. Lou Saperstein of Sapersteins in Millerton, and Cale Capishilin, who's a co-founder of Evolving Media here in Kingston. So thank you for joining me. So I have a 7-point plan, which I'm going to briefly cover in a minute. But I think that there's just sort of a basic truth that we have to address, which is that we need to be supporting our independent businesses and small farms because they are the bedrock, heart, and soul of our economy and bedrock, heart, and soul of our communities. And the real threat to the independent business economy, small farm economy, comes from a handful of big businesses who've hired lobbyists who are really squeezing out the independent economy. And John Faso, who I'm running against, has been a lobbyist. He's a career politician, and he cashed out and became a lobbyist, who has been a lobbyist for exactly the kind of business that was working for getting special favors for the big businesses while the independent and small ones get squeezed out. When I go to Congress, I'm going to be listening to those of you every day involved in building the independent business economy and small farm economy here. I'm going to be your advocate. I'm going to be your voice. I'm going to be bringing your issues, whether they're about fees or about property taxes or about what's happening in antitrust. I will be your champion. As I've said many times, 2 of the committees I want to be on are the small business and ag. So I want to be your voice on those committees, pushing for your issues so that we can revive this area. So I'll talk you through 7 points, but first I want to introduce Cale Capishilin, who will talk about...
Thank you so much. And thank you for reaching out in, I think it was January of this year, when Zephyr first reached out to me. I organized, in addition to being a small business owner at Evolving Media Network here for 15 years, we've been making websites and software, and one by one, growing a staff now to 15. In the early part of this year, Zephyr reached out and wanted to talk about what we need in the tech sector here and to grow our small business as well, and said, do you know that there are people in this district who don't have access to broadband internet? And I said, this is true, and this is a major problem. And she said, what can I do to help? And then 2 weeks later, we were on a call with a public policy person at Google Fiber. And then we were introduced to Joanne Hovis at the Coalition for Local Internet Choice, and real thought leadership in the national conversation about how we bring broadband internet to rural communities. And Zephyr said, you know, I think the best way to get a job is to act like you already have a job and to do that work. And she literally is doing it and did it with us. And I fell in love with her work as in public policy and as a leader of this community. And I trust her to bring these issues that matter so much to us. You know, when we reach out and tell people the story of the great work that's happening here in this community, a big part of it is access to the rest of the world and access to the internet. And it's a complicated issue, but it matters to her and it matters to us. Not just access for businesses, but access in your home. And in the future, we need fiber optic internet here. Everybody here in the district needs access to the internet. And I know that Zephyr is already working on that problem. So as both a business owner and as a father of 2 children and as a really active member of this community, helping everything I can, I'm so grateful that she is working for us as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Well, as you might guess, I'll talk about it in a second, but infrastructure and broadband is a part of what we need to revive and support the independent business community here here. And now I'm delighted to introduce Lou Saperstein, who I met when I was doing a small business, or not, a downtown business tour in Millerton. I bet some of you here have shopped at Saperstein's? Yes. Yes, good. Yes, so here is Lou.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lou Saperstein, and I'm the owner of Saperstein's in Millerton, an independent clothing and shoe store that my father Irving started 70 years ago. We've been a part of our community ever since, supporting local charities and taking care of generations of our customers. But businesses like mine are being squeezed out by the big box stores. I carried Oshkosh products 25 years until one day I got a letter informing me that the new minimum is $50,000 a year. Nike didn't even write me a letter. They just stopped inviting me to presentations and stopped sending me catalogs. These were very important brands for me. Oshkosh was my main children's line, Nike my main sneaker company. They forced my neighbors who want to spend their money in our community and support independent, locally owned businesses to buy these products from big box stores. But it gets worse. Stores like mine will gradually disappear. You will be forced to buy from big box stores or online. Years ago, there was a system of wholesalers. These were middlemen where a new store owner could buy a big company's goods and get credit. These wholesalers no longer exist. As an established company, I buy direct from companies like Levi and Carhartt. A new business would not be able to get the credit they need from these companies or from a bank. I am supporting Zephyr Teachout because she understands that competitive markets are vital for communities and consumers. In Washington, she'll represent our interests, not the corporate lobbyists who make their money representing big businesses and don't care about the rest of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou. And if you haven't been, when you go to Millerton, you have to go. It really is the center of the community. And people who go downtown to stop at Saperstein's then stay downtown to shop at the other stores. So it's a vital part of the community in so many ways. So we will have our full white paper about our 7-point plan online. I'm just going to briefly talk through them. One of the things that Lou mentioned, which is so important, is we got to make the big banks lend to small businesses. We got to do it. Ulster Savings Bank does a terrific job at actually lending to our local businesses, but the big banks, I haven't talked to very many independent business owners who can get a line of credit, even if they're successful. Now here's the rub, we bailed them out. We bailed out the big banks because they said they were going to lend. So when I go to Washington, I'm going to make sure to always be a voice to say we actually have to make them come through on that promise. We've got to buy American, and we got to buy local, and we got to support American made, and we got to support local. I want to live in a community where 1 in 5 people are making something or growing something. Yes. And that means not just stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but renegotiating NAFTA. Yes. Number 3, we got to deal with the red tape and unfair fees. These are very real. I think as Kale told me, I didn't go into business to fill out forms. and the thing to understand about both the red tape and the fees really pile up for the independent business owner. Like if you're a big box store, you might not care about a $300 fee, but if you're Bob Tatum, a $500 fee just to renew your license, that matters. So here's the thing to understand. Big businesses are fine with all the paperwork. In fact, they have lobbyists who are okay with both the paperwork and the fees because it's nothing for them. They have the staff. But if you have a small staff, you're doing your own accounting, this is a real issue. So I think we have to address that head on. And when I am in Washington, I will be looking for ways we can say, yes, of course, we need to have safe food, but we don't need this excessive regulation. Number 4, we got to talk about property taxes. The property tax issue is real. It's not just for homeowners. And it's pretty simple. The state is making counties pay what should be paid. Basically taking on Medicaid reimbursement costs. And we need to lighten that up and deal with the property taxes, which are really hurting independent businesses and our small farmers, family farmers. Okay, we've got to address healthcare costs. This is number 5. And the key here is there's a few different reasons for rising healthcare costs, but these are really hitting independent businesses hard. But the key here is big pharma. So if you look at what from in 2014 alone, drug spending increased 12.6%. That doesn't make any sense. That's just 1 year, but that's coming from pharma's a monopoly right now. And they're manipulating prices. So when I go to Washington, I've stood up to big cable. I'm willing to do that again. I've stood up to big banks. I'm willing to do that again. But we also have to stand up to big pharma. If we really want to bring down our healthcare costs, we have to see where those dollars are going, and they're going to pharma companies. One more thing about big pharma: they're firing chemists and hiring accountants. They're firing chemists and hiring lobbyists. I want to live in a world where if you're in retail, you're in retail. If you're in farming, you're in farming. If you're making shoes, you're making shoes. And if you're in pharma, you're doing pharma. You're not serving Wall Street when you're in all those things. And then the last two, Lou touched briefly on what was happening with Oshkosh and Nike and other sort of key lines that he needs to have access to. What we suspect and what we see across the board is the big box stores are very happy when the independent retailers get cut out from these basic chains, from these basic lines. Does that make sense? And this is it's called vertical restraint. It's a kind of thing that we used to have a pretty tight watchdog on with antitrust policy. Basically to make sure that the big stores don't get to unfairly compete. This isn't a fair competition, it's unfair competition. So we have to revive antitrust policy, take on the big monopolies. Because if you're a big box store, you have an army of lobbyists. And if you're an independent retailer holding your community together, you don't have that same lobbyist. So we need antitrust to make sure they don't get an unfair advantage. Look to Teddy Roosevelt. Let's do some trust busting. And then finally, we have to invest in rural infrastructure. Part of rural infrastructure is broadband and cell service. That's essential. I shamelessly steal from FDR in supporting, we need a new Rural Electrification Act. In the 1930s, he got together with Republican senators to light up rural America with a commitment to get electricity to every last farmhouse, every last store. And then 10 years later, phone to every last farmhouse, every last store. We need a rural electrification initiative for the 21st century, which is broadband to every last farm and cell service everywhere. Yeah, it's essential for us. But we also need to take care of our water systems, our water pipes, our water tanks. We need to take care of our roads. We need to take care of our bridges. We need to take care of the basics. And when I am in Congress, I will be an advocate for the basics. This is not glamorous, but if we want to revive our economy, we have to just take care of our basic infrastructure, not just take care of it, upgrade it, bring it into the 21st century. We've spent the last several months campaigning, but in every town we go to, we always just, if we have a few extra minutes, we stop in and the stories that I've heard are that people really want to be involved in starting the next Sapersteins. They want to be involved in starting a new farm. They want to be involved in starting a design shop. It's our job, if we want to revive this economy and continue the exciting things that are already happening in Kingston, to make sure that we have the federal policy in place to actually allow that to happen. Thank you for coming today. Well, okay, thank you for coming today. I'll be around for a little while, so I can take a few questions from reporters, but if there's supporters who have questions, I'll be around and we can answer those afterwards. Anybody from the press? Yes.
As you know, for several months, the broadband policy at the state level has been kind of hanging. People have been expecting something. And lo and behold, last night, the governor released a statement.
Yes.
and seems to have some kind of a strategy,
Yeah.
and some kind of a sense of alignment with the powers that be,
Yeah.
etc. I wonder if you could comment on your take of that policy.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. It's really important to be pushing forward this broadband policy. The key here is making sure that new charter follows through on its promises. Verizon's made a lot of promises it hasn't followed through on in the Hudson Valley. So when I am in Congress, I will be a watchdog, making sure that those promises are kept and not put off one year after another. But fundamentally, as Lou said, I believe in a competitive marketplace. And as I've said before, I believe the way to get to universal broadband and cell coverage is actually opening up competition, allowing last mile competition. So I'm very excited about what's happening, but in the long term, we need to be taking on these big cable companies that are trying to shut out others, because we need more local competition, more local choice. Bravo. Any other press questions? Well, stay. It's a little early for a drink. But thank you all for coming, and I cannot wait to represent you in Washington. Great.